when Jared broke his arm, or his shoulder, which we all remember.
Yeah, people think I'm cosplaying him sometimes.
That's awesome. But if he wouldn't wear the sling, you know, people would come, hey, ah! So it is, if you injured,
Yesterday, because I had photo ops, I didn't put it on, but it was kind of difficult. So.
yeah. Well, good that it's on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, my question is that, Richard yesterday talked to us about his directing experience this season and how your advice has been valuable as he had to direct himself. So I was wondering if you could share more about your experience doing that.
It's, I don't know if he talked about this, but he and I sat down and he wanted to kind of talk to me about that experience, because I'm the only one that's experienced that from the show. Well, no, that's not true. Misha did one. But it's difficult, and I found it very difficult having to kind of switch from that mind frame to acting, and it helped me. It actually made me realize that when I'm just playing Dean, my mind is very clear, and I don't. I'm not thinking about things. I'm not analyzing things. I'm not. It's just I'm a little bit more open for the magic to happen, so to speak. When you're a director, you can't do that. You have to have. I mean, you need to be able to see when moments are there and be able to capture them. But you've got to have a plan. And so, directing is you're constantly thinking, okay, I need this shot, because you're kind of editing the movie in your mind. So you're like, okay, I've got this shot, I need this shot. Oh, I can actually move from this camera angle into this camera angle. That'll save me some time. Because you're constantly thinking, like, the whole day. And then when they're like, okay, Jensen, we need you on set, you're in this scene. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, I don't know my lines. You know, and so it was difficult, and it took a little bit of, it took a few more takes when I would step from the director's seat in front of the camera and start to play Dean. It would take a couple of takes for me to kind of get into Dean's character and get that, you know, that flow going. So I kind of warned Richard about that there is, for me, it was two totally different, you know, ways of thinking. And it took some getting used to. It was hard. It was difficult. I think he did a fantastic job, though, and I told him that. And then that's the last time I'll ever compliment him again. So.
Well, you did a fantastic job doing that too, and you've done it multiple times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My question is, what is your most awkward or embarrassing experience on Supernatural set?
I mean, watch the gag reel. There's plenty. There's the most awkward. You know what's? This is gonna sound weird. What's awkward or embarrassing for me is when we're doing a scene and there's a lot of background performers. So if we're in like a big crowded restaurant or something, or if we're on the street and there's 30 background performers, you know, walking from this point to this point, and then picking up the bag and turning around and walking from this point to, everybody's got a job to do. And for some reason, I always feel like they're just standing by, just watching me wait, ready to go. And so the pressure is put on me a little bit more not to mess up, because I have 30 other people waiting to be cued by the things that I'm saying, and I'm like, I better not change this line or change this word, because everybody's waiting for me to do their thing. So for me, that just, I don't know, I always get a little like gun shy when there's a lot of strangers in the room for some reason. I don't know why. But as far as like a moment, there's plenty of moments. Like I said, watch the gag reel.
I'd love to.
Oh, all right. Look, Jared can show it to you. I'm not going to be a part of that. He can get the phone call from Warner Brothers. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. First of all, I'm really thankful to be here and able to ask this question that I've been carrying around since the end of season 11.
Well, drop it off. What do you got?
Okay, so I'm going to shake it off now. Dean was supposed to throw the soul bomb on Amara, which they were preparing for him with a magical spell and collected all the souls, but he didn't use it. But in the way that Dean was talking to Amara, in my opinion, he was a soul bomb. You know what I mean? And the way that he talked to her was so soulful that she changed her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, did you also see it a bit like that?
I mean, there was like it was written to be some sort of like a ticking time bomb within Dean. But I believe it was, I played it more as though it was Dean trying one last effort to not use that and destroy, everything. So I think it was an honest moment for Dean of just him expressing to her what he, everything that he could to get her to change her mind. But yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't looked at it that way. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Jensen. So I've just been wondering, I think the will have been feeling a little bit left out today, and I've been wondering if you could help it a little, and maybe make sure it also lands on sing.
What's been left out today?
The will.
The
will.
Oh man. Most people get excited about surprises. Not I.
It's going to be perfect. Someone...
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I'm sorry.
I found some friends of yours.
It's really lonely.
No, they're tiny. Listen,
You can get one of them inside the bond.
let me just, because Steve here is supposed to meet some new people here. Your name? That's interesting. Yeah, no, yeah. Let me get your friend out. I'm talking to shoes. Steve, I'd like to introduce the twins. This is Sandy, and this is Brandy. Thanks a lot. Alright, that was fun. Maybe I'll do it again next year.
Another friend. I know you can live without unicorns and glitters. Be happy that it was just unicorns and not glitters.
Got it. Okay. Does this one have a name? Ricky?
Whiskey.
What?
Whiskey.
Whiskey. Sure. Where? No. Oh, I'm sorry. This is, I can't do this anymore. It's just gonna, alright, you know, when Misha gets out here, we'll continue this conversation. God knows why, I don't. Do you have a question for me and my friends?
No, but just to be fair, I did say if you could spin the wheel and make it land on sing, so you didn't hear the last part, so it's kind of your fault.
Hey, look, I don't control where the wheel ends up. I just gave it a good old spin. And now we have,
Thank you, sorry.
what is the term for many unicorn, a what? A zoo? A zoo of unicorns? She says this like she really knows it to be true. She's like, it's a zoo. A zoo of unicorns. How do you not know this? It's a zoo of unicorns up there. All right. Hi.
Hi, I asked this question yesterday to Misha. So I used to be a professional ice skater, and I really enjoyed your guys' support to the US ice skating team during the Olympics. And as we all know, you also had as your special skills listed as ice skating. So I wanted to know if you ever had like some sort of training, or if you could elaborate on your special skills.
Yeah, that basically required me being able to put ice skates on my feet.
Well, we saw some picture like a few years ago with you and Daniil and the kids on some ice rink. Or
Again, I'm able to get them on my feet, lace them up, and not fall over immediately. To me, that's ice skating. Which is probably insulting to you, and I apologize for that. Yeah, no, I've never been good at it or trained in it. There wasn't a lot of ice.
Misha wanted some lessons, so we can join.
He wanted some lessons. He needs a lot of lessons. Well, that's very cool. Have you hung up the skates, or do you still ice skate?
Yeah, not anymore. I didn't have time for work.
Yeah.
And I basically grew up too much too fast, so I had to the whole equilibrium got screwed up. So
Well,
yeah.
we all think we've grown up, but
yes.
I don't know that we have that much.
Well, it was like 10 centimeters in 1 year, so it was way too much too fast.
Wow. Oh, you like literally grew up. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Never mind.
No, that's not happening the other way. It's not.
Right, yeah. Because I'm up here with a zoo of unicorns. Zoo, we're good with that? Okay. Yeah, so, but yes, physically, yeah. They could change things.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi.
First of all, I would like to thank
thank you and all here. This is my first con and ever.
Yeah. And my last.
No, definitely I'll be here next year, and I hope you too. So yeah, thank you all. And my question would be: we've seen Dean getting real comfy in the bunker, and he's started drinking coffee, less beer. But now in the last few episodes, we've seen him going from coffee to beer and from beer to whiskey. So my question is kind of two-part. And the first one is, does Dean really realize that? And if so, what does he think about it? And also, does Sam see it, and does it affect him also?
I don't think I realized it. Yeah, the beverage of choice is not entirely thought about like it used to be. What season was that? The 7 when Dean kind of really went down the rabbit hole. Yeah, since then it's really the only thing that dictates it is the time of day. If it's morning, then it's generally coffee. If it's afternoon, beer. And if it's in the evening, it's whiskey. Or if it's been a rough night, it's whiskey all 3 of those times. So, yeah, and honestly, like it doesn't even say in the script. And it'll say, you know, the Dean comes in with a drink, or it doesn't even say it at all. And Robin, who is our on-set props, she'll come up and she's like, what do you think what do you want to drink today? Or what do you want to drink? What do you want to have in a scene? And I'll be like, well, what time of day is it? She's like, oh, it's 3 in the afternoon according to the script supervisor. I'm like, fine, give me a beer. She's like, all right, I should go to the props truck and pull a beer. So it's, I think it's a little less of a story point and more of just kind of the general tone of the show.
Because there was a particular scene, and I don't remember which one because I watched them all together, the episodes, where Dean has a coffee and they go through some lore, or not documents, and he says like, no, this is not enough, and gets beer. So that was like pretty obvious for me.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, and again, I think it was just like, you know, coffee ain't gonna cut it right now. I need something stronger.
So we don't have to be worried.
I don't think we have to be worried about his beverage choices. And a little fun fact for you, there's rarely ever coffee in the coffee cups.
Oh, what is it?
And there is, let's see, there's rarely ever whiskey in the whiskey glasses. No. And the beer is rarely ever alcoholic. The beer is non-alcoholic beer, so it's very unsatisfying. But comes with all the bloat, which is great. And the whiskey is Coca-Cola cut with water, which tastes great after the 7th take. There is another flask on the props cart that is sometimes we have to dip into that. And then the coffee is also Coke. It's just flat Coca-Cola.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And every now and again I'm like, I can't, dude, just give me coffee. But then they have to go out and get the coffee from the craft service, they have to bring it in, and they have to keep it hot, and it's like a whole thing, because there's nothing worse for me than like room temperature coffee. So I'd rather just have the cola. So yeah, that's generally what is in that. So sometimes if you actually see the coffee cup, you'll see the effervescence, like the bouncing carbonation. You're like, that doesn't look like coffee. That's not only not steaming, it's sparkling. Yeah, there's a lot of little tricks like that. But anyway, nothing to be scared of. Dean's fine. Jensen, however.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
One of the reasons I hate the break between seasons is because I feel like Sam and Dean are my friends and I don't get to hang out with them every week like I do during the season.
But we're right here.
Well, my question is, do you miss Dean while you're on the summer hiatus, or is it just nice to get away from him for a while?
It's nice to put that down for a bit, but it's also fun to kind of pick it back up after a couple of months. So yeah, it's a long season. 23 episodes is a very long haul, and that's we've been doing that for quite a while now. And when it gets to be the last 3 episodes, it's like the end of a marathon. And so I think everybody's ready to kind of hang it up and go see some sunshine and get away from work and from the same faces every day. We love each other, but we need a break every now and again. So it is welcomed, and that's why sometimes we let our facial hair grow out, and we maybe cut our hair differently, and it's just to kind of shake it off a bit. Yeah, look a little different. God knows what's going to happen to me when the show's over. What? In 2050?
2070.
Well, then let me demonstrate. Hunting ghosts for senior citizens. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Jensen. We know you love to drive, baby, so I wanted to know which scene was the most fun to drive.
Probably when I did the reverse 180 in the episode Baby. That was fun because I'd never gotten to do that with that car before, and I got to practice a couple times over lunch, and then did it about I did it 3 or 4 times for all the cameras. But it was pretty fun. In fact, I have actually, what they did is they mounted the camera right on the hood, and the window shield had been a window screen, right? Yeah. That's probably, what is it? Windscreen, that's the proper term for it. Anyway, it had been busted out because of the big fight in there, and so the windows were busted out. But what they did is they strapped down this camera onto the hood of the car, and I took my cell phone and taped it onto the camera and then hit record. So I've got this really cool video of it on my phone. Then because the camera was going to see 180 degrees, everybody had to run off the road. They were on the walkies, like, okay, lock it up. We're going to roll sound, and everybody duck behind the trees and get behind this, or duck down and get out of the way. And so it was funny. Like our camera assistant came over and they marked it with the slate, and then it was just like ants just scattering everywhere. And then it was just empty. Like the road was empty. There was nobody, which is really strange because I'm just so used to having so many crew people around. And our guest star was sitting next to me, and right as they locked it all up, we got everything ready, and I was, the car was running, and the cameras were rolling, and everything was good to go. And she looks at me and she goes, "You've done this before, right?" And I just looked at her. I was like, "Now is not a good time." And and then that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. There was another moment that was equally exhilarating, I would say, and that was the very first day of filming season 13 and it was the so it was the first episode, but it was the moment where the brothers are riding the Impala and they're just cruising down the road, and then they pull up to the Pirate Jacks or something. The last time that Jack was seen. So that very first day of filming, we shot that driving scene, and I knew that they used a lot of. There's this thing. There's an automobile that they've converted into a fully functioning camera mobile, essentially, where there's a crane on the top of it. And they used this a lot for Deadpool when they shot that in Vancouver. So I knew it existed, but we'd never worked with it on our show. And essentially, I was driving the Impala on this kind of winding mountainous road that had twists and turns and elevation changes. And I have this SUV with a giant crane mounted to the top of it with a driver, a director, an operator, a focus puller, and what else? And the crane operator, all in this car. And these guys are so good, they're stunt drivers, that as I was cruising along, they're coming within inches of my car. And the camera actually came, at one point, the lens was in the window. Mind you, we're going 30 miles an hour, which may not seem fast, but when you've got a camera coming from the outside of the car into the window, and you're trying to constantly keep the exact speed so that they can adjust their speed, and there's elevation changes like this. That car is heavy, you get it on a downgrade, it starts to speed up, so I'm like lightly tapping the brakes to keep that speedometer on. And it was like, I was sweating bullets. And may I help you? All right, I'll wrap it up. And so anyway, I have to say lines and act and do that. I have to put a performance in while I'm doing all this, and the car's in front of me and behind me and beside me, and the camera's moving all over, and it's like sitting right on the front of the hood, and I'm driving 30 miles an hour. Meanwhile, Jared's like, what's my line? And I'm like, really? All you have to do is say your lines. I'm doing everything else. He's like, it's early, man. Oh, I wanted to throw him out of the car. All right, that's it for me. I'm gonna take Sandy and Randy with me because he doesn't need a zoo of unicorns, right?